So if you know exactly what to do for your health, but you're still not doing it, this is going to be for you. I'm going to break down not only the science behind why this is happening, but also go over actionable steps on how you can actually overcome the gap between information and action, and then ultimately some Q&A at the end and some additional resources, tools, and insight that you can immediately not only take action on, but ultimately to just increase your success rate throughout the process. So first, I mentioned the science. If you guys want to see any of the citations for what I'm referencing, this will always be up in the blog post that I put out after our lives. So if you're actually watching this live, there will be a blog post that comes out afterwards each week. You can check that as well. I'll also put it in the show notes. You can join our newsletter, all of that good stuff. But ultimately, again, you could probably relate to this, right? You know what to do. You've gone on either a information kind of hunt, or you've gotten the book, you've taken the course, you've done the thing, but ultimately there's a gap between the knowledge and the action. And there's a couple of different reasons why that can take place, but I'm willing to bet, based on a variety of things going on now, I'm going to say that it's related to some dysregulation. And what I mean by that, the fancy kind of dynamic to that is, with our nervous system being dysregulated, it's going to make it extremely challenging to actually implement and take action on any knowledge that we have. For example, why do smart people sabotage themselves? Or why does discipline disappear under stress? It's not just about knowledge by itself. It's also not just purely relying on discipline and willpower, which is a great thing, but it's a multifaceted, multivariable approach that we're going to dive into. And I'm going to look at some of the science related to this that's going to give you some insight. And again, feel free to ask questions, not only if you're watching this live, but if you're watching the replay of this, ask questions. I will circle back. I will even address it in the Q&A for this, but I will also circle back to our replay and in the comments and add some value. So number one, stress impairs executive function. And I will explain both of those things here. And this is coming from a study done in 2009 from Nature Reviews Neuroscience. And basically what it states is acute stress suppresses prefrontal cortex function. So what does that mean? That's a lot of words I just kind of threw at you. So when we think about prefrontal cortex, this part of our brain that is connected to executive function, to logic, to analytics, to making, again, decisions not influenced by impulse. That's where impulse control can come into play. A lot of this honestly mimics ADHD orientation. Now, it doesn't mean you have ADHD. If this is you, this is just for everybody. But a lot of people with ADHD can relate to a lot of these challenges and struggles. Now, when we increase stress acutely, it will plummet executive function. It will plummet prefrontal cortex function and activation. So if you're already someone with ADHD and having some prefrontal cortex activation issues, or you're someone that has a, let's say, neurotypical brain, but you are feeling stress, this is going to lower it. That's one aspect. Again, I'm going to get to what you can do with this information after we go through these 5 kind of data checkpoints. But I first wanted to give you how we are arriving here and what might be influencing this. Number 2, sleep loss reduces impulse control. So stress is going to have a factor that's related to impulse control and executive function, our prefrontal cortex, but also sleep loss, getting less than 7 to 9 hours of sleep on a nightly basis will reduce our overall impulse control. This was from a study back in 2010. Even one poor night of sleep reduces our cognitive control and impulse control, again, relating to our prefrontal cortex firing. And it can also exacerbate maybe some areas of our brain related to the limbic system and emotional state, being able to play with some impulsivity as well. So we have stress, we have sleep. Now let's look at another aspect of stress as well. Stress pushes you towards habit loops. For better or worse, it's going to push you towards habit loops that you have already created. So under stress, this is from a study done in 2009, under stress, behavior shifts from goal-directed will go to habitually directed behavior patterns. So you can have a new goal. This is like, for example, New Year's resolutions, especially it's February, right? So at least the time I'm doing this live, if you're watching a replay, doesn't matter what time of year. I'm curious to see if anyone wants to share in the comments in the chat. And hey, maybe you're a person that actually set a New Year's resolution, you're still crushing it, but statistically, likely you are not. And the point of saying that is also, I appreciate the questions here in the chat. I see you. I'll get to you. And simple answers, no, but I got you. And being able to realize that you want to set up habits, and it's kind of goes to this expression I pull from sports or martial arts, is you don't fall to, or you don't reach or attain the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your training or your behaviors or your habits. This is again referencing a study from 2009. So under stress, again, behavior will shift from your goal-oriented direction to your habits that you've created for yourself. So it's important to realize we want to lean into our habits. What habits are you creating? And then things are going to get stressful at different points. We'll talk about the actions you can do with that information. That's another factor here. Number 4, environment drives behavior. So we talked about behaviors and going from, let's say, goal to habit. Environment's going to also drive our behavior patterns. This is from a study in 2007. 40 to 45% of daily behaviors are automatic habits. Here's an interesting one too, that is just a fun nutritional data point I saw from another study that we were doing on another topic, is on average, on a daily basis, the human brain and the human experience will drive over 200 nutritional decisions, just dealing with food and nutrition and things related to that on a daily basis. So let alone all the other decisions and factors and things we're going to have to think about. So environment's going to drive our behavior. If we're in a constantly stressful environment, if we're in our normal environment where things are laid out, a variety of things are going to compound on that. So we're going to kind of look at that again as some options for actionable things we can focus on. And last of our data points, number 5, exercise improves executive function. Exercise is going to improve prefrontal cortex activation as well as other areas of our brain, specifically aerobic exercise. And aerobic exercise is also going to increase hippocampal volume and activity as well as improves overall cognition, but it's also going to increase prefrontal cortex activation. And again, this is from a study in 2011 that's referencing this. So if you notice, these are like all studies from the like early to mid 2000s so far, but the data kind of will hold up. And we can always circle back and challenge some things. If you guys ever want to like challenge this data, I'm happy to like hear that out. Also, hello. What's up, everybody on YouTube? I appreciate you saying hey. Again, feel free to drop additional questions. I'll get into them when we have our Q&A. But to recap these 5 data points related to, you know what to do, but you just aren't able to execute. It can be stress related. Stress is going to impair our executive function, which is our analytical, rational portion of our brain that lets us make rational decisions. Prefrontal cortex activation. Number 2, sleep is going to reduce our ability to control our impulses. So we're going to have more impulse control issues when we're getting less than 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Even one poor night of sleep reduces cognitive control. Number 3, stress pushes us towards our habit loops. So if you've already created a habit, let's say when I'm stressed out, I want to eat sugary oriented foods at night to decompress, which is a real thing. When I'm stressed out, I'm going to be more inclined to do that instead of going towards a potential new goal that I'm working on, which is to lower my body fat percentage or whatever the thing is for most of us that we can relate to. We're going to go towards the habit we've already created for ourselves. But I've been able to, again, and we'll go over some of the actionables, redirect some of these habits and how can we stack these things. Number 4, environment's going to drive our behavior. 40 to 45% of our daily behaviors are automatic habits at this point that are going to be influenced and related to our environment and routines related to that. Then number 5, exercise improves executive function. Exercise is going to increase activity of our prefrontal cortex. It's going to increase hippocampal volume and improve our overall cognition. This is a fancy way of saying exercise, if it were a pill, it would be outstanding as far as what it can do for your brain and for your body and your health. So that's just a little bit of like what the science is showing us in the foundation of what we're talking about here. So now, again, we have this information, right? This is the ironic part. You have all the information. Now let's talk about what we're going to do with it. That's going to allow us to take the gaps on here's what I want to do to what I'm actually able to implement. And the formula I like to use here is taking awareness. We're aware of where there might be some gaps in what we're doing, or we're aware it's not working out for us. We combine that with intention, and we combine that intention with action. And ultimately that is going to lead us to results, growth, and transformation. So here's a couple of signs to look for as well that might be going on in life. If you may be unaware that you're even stressed. You're like, oh, this is just my daily life. Especially if you're a parent, you're a business owner, you are dealing with what feels like your typical day today. Here's some things to indicate you might be dysregulated. Your system might be dysregulated. You may be overly stressed, chronically stressed, and overtaxed. Number one, you scroll at night instead of sleeping. I was literally just talking to Carrie, my fiance, about this before. I know a lot of us can run into the routine of like, oh, well, I want to decompress. So I'm going to scroll on social media, or I'm going to watch TV or do those things. Again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but if it's not aligning with the quality of life that you want, you're not hitting your goals, it's an opportunity to reflect, saying there's probably something amiss here. There's a dysregulation component going on. So if you scroll at night, let's say you're even in bed, let's say you not only have your Netflix time, all that, then you find yourself in bed and you're scrolling and you can't go to sleep. That's a great example of real-time dysregulation going on. Number two, you snack instead of training. For example, we're trying to work out, but instead of doing that, you're like, I'm going to eat instead. Or you snack instead of sleeping even. We can substitute those things. You're going for food as an easy dopamine fix and a system regulation tool, as opposed to going to your training or whatever habit is that you're focusing on. Number three, you react emotionally. You're more emotionally oriented and you have a harder time regulating those emotions, and in general feel what we would call emotional dysregulation. Number four, you delay workouts. You push them off, or you delay other actionable oriented habits and things that you said you would do. Oh, I'll start it next week, or I'll start it tomorrow. I'll do it on Monday. And this is number five. You say, I'll start Monday. You say, I'll start tomorrow. You say, I'll do it later. Again, to recap these things, this isn't laziness inherently by itself. This is a nervous system overloaded with chronic stress. Now, that doesn't mean, hey, we don't want to look at this. It doesn't mean there's not going to be a component of discipline, of willpower. But what it's indicating is obviously the way you've structured your life, or the way I've structured my life, or the way we in general have structured our lives, it is creating dysregulation. And we get to reevaluate this. You can for sure push through and use discipline. And I've coached people on doing that. But being able to go back to reevaluating the systems, reevaluating what got you here in the first place. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to just check the chat and see what kind of comments we got here. Sure. Yeah. Nothing might be worth the risk. That's can be a valid statement. I'm not sure the context, but appreciate you. Thanks, Rome. And we'll see if we got anything else coming in there. Doesn't look like it. So we're going to keep on going on to the next component of this, which is looking at the re-regulation, or the regulation component, and the 4 pillars related to this. This is, again, the actionable parts. This is, all right, you know what to do. This is what you get to take action on. So number one, we talked about sleep and stress. Protect 7 to 9 hours of sleep. But in general, this is the deeper component to it. No one just has a simple on and off switch where you're like, cool, I'm going to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep tonight. That's not how that works, okay? If you have that, cool, I'd love to talk to you. We can study that. We can evaluate your behavior. But most of us are going to be like, all right, I'm going to sleep 7 to 9 hours tonight, and that's how it works. What we really get to protect is our 2 to 3 hours before sleep, or that evening time chunk. And then also protect our morning time as well. So we want to have consistency with our waking and sleeping windows. For example, the one thing you could do tonight is something I want you to take on action on right now, is turn your devices off an hour earlier. Whatever time you normally would do, whatever it looks like. Let's say you bring your phone into bed. You watch TV in bed. First off, don't do that. Create a separate space. Your bedroom is your bedroom. You don't watch TV in your bedroom before bed. You don't use your phone in your bedroom. You don't use your computers or any devices in your bedroom. Your bedroom for the 2-3 hours before sleep is a pure sleep zone only. Ideally in general throughout the day, but at least for the 3 hours before bed. So being able to piggyback on that, you don't eat you don't do whatever devices you're doing an hour before your sleep time. You move it up an hour. Then there's the 3-2-1 method. It's something I've talked about in the past, whether it's your stressful activities, work-related items, things like that, eating, and also digital kind of devices. You can use any variations of that. So let's say 3 hours before bed, I'm not going to eat anything. 2 hours before bed, I'm not going to have any more work or stressful related kind of activities. And then 1 hour before bed, I'm not going to do any kind of devices whatsoever. And you can adapt this into a varying degrees. This is just one thing that we can take action on. So that's number one. Number two, in the morning, if you are not fasting, like I like to play with intermittent fasting. So I will kind of do a variation of it. Well, I'll do protein shakes and coffee in the morning. That's all I do in my mornings. And I usually break my fast between 12 and 2 p.m. after my workout. But let's say you're eating breakfast, you're going to have 30 to 40 grams of protein, maybe more, maybe less, depending on your size. I'm a 200-ish, 210 pound male, about 6 foot. So I will tend to have about 3 to 5 meals a day. They're going to be roughly about 30 to 50 grams of protein each. You can adjust that. Again, we don't have to go pure into the numbers and math and all that fun stuff, but shoot to have protein at your breakfast. What this is going to do, it's going to stabilize your appetite, your blood sugar, and we're not going to get that huge blood sugar spike first thing in the morning. The reason we even care about that is being able to create consistency and sustainability. When we're not spiking our blood sugar first thing in the morning, or in general, you're going to set yourselves up for some regulation in circadian rhythm. You're going to set yourself up for success with your appetite and a variety of other components, even related to like gut health and things like that. We can play with fiber and some other things, but to keep it simple, have protein at your breakfast. And if you're not eating breakfast, make up for that protein. So let's say you do intermittent fasting. You do a 16-8 style where you do 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating, and you don't eat until 2 o'clock. At that 2 o'clock window, you have to make up, and throughout the rest of that 8 hours, you have to make up for that protein you didn't eat at breakfast. Otherwise, you are going to risk lowering your overall protein intake and overall lowering your body's ability to recover from a muscle repair and an overall muscle mass body composition. Why that becomes important in system regulation: it's going to be harder to maintain your workouts if you don't have adequate muscle growth. You're not going to feel as encouraged. You're going to feel more tired. It's going to create a ripple effect and a chain. So that's why we want to have protein at breakfast and or make up for the protein you're missing at breakfast throughout your day if you're doing intermittent fasting. Number 3, get sunlight and movement. 10 minutes of sunlight and movement within the first 30 minutes of waking in a perfect world. But realistically, I told you in the first hour, that's money. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be outside if you're in dead winter. Like ideally, yes, it's outside. But if you can have a sunroom in your house or a room with a lot of windows, be able to get in front of that, get some sunlight, open up the blinds, and then just walk around. Like it's February right now. It's actually like 50 something, maybe 60 degrees where I'm at. But let's say it was cold. It was like 5 degrees a couple of weeks ago. I would say, okay, I'm not going outside except to shovel, not getting a bunch of sunlight per se. I'm going to have the windows open. I'm going to walk in front of the windows. And I'm just going to walk for 10 minutes in front of the windows, do a little bit of calisthenics or some movement, some shadow boxing, whatever that looks like. But getting 10 minutes of sunlight and movement within the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking up, this is going to improve your dopamine to start the day, which is our motivation signal. It's our reward neurotransmitter and our motivation neurotransmitter. It's also going to help impact your circadian rhythm, your serotonin levels, your vitamin D. It's going to impact your testosterone. It has a huge chain reaction that's going to be really impactful here. Number 4, breath work. 5 minutes of breathing before reacting is absolutely money. But 5 minutes before breathing can feel so overwhelmingly out of the picture. We start with what's possible. And I invite people to start with 30 seconds. And being able to do that will downregulate our sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight state. So if you're worked up, if you're emotional, you're going to get into your sympathetic state more than likely, which is not the place we're going to be for making rational decisions. In that sympathetic state, you're going to be more potentially illogical, emotional, and impulsive. So being able to slow our breathing down for 30 seconds, ideally for 5 minutes, is where it's going to have a massive impact, and be able to transition into our parasympathetic state, our rest and digest state, where we're going to be a little bit more clear-headed. We're going to be a little bit more impactful and be able to be a little bit calmer. What's going on, Kragan? Hey, it's going good. We're getting into the deets here. How you doing? Again, feel free to ask questions, guys, as we're going through this. Don't mind as I randomly will tag into the chat and say hey to everybody. So to recap those things, these are the actionable pieces you could do right now, today, to have an impact, to bridge the gap from your knowledge of your health and what you want to get done to actually implementing and creating new regulation-oriented habits. 1, protect your sleep like it is your job. It is the most important thing you can do. Prioritize your sleep. That's been something that I get to continuously refocus on, especially having kids, between traveling. We just got back from our retreat. It's impacting that. Being able to manage having a 10-month-old, being able to manage having a partner, having kids, they got to get to school, all these co-parenting. We have half of the kids in the house, half of the week. And then we have the other half of the week where we just have hope. So being able to regulate our routine. So having some consistency. I'll be honest. I'll give you guys a perfect example. When I have my 2 older daughters or 3 older daughters combined with my stepdaughter as well, I wake up usually around 5:45 in the morning to bring them to school. So half the time, half the week, I'm waking up at 5:45 on Thursday, Friday, and Monday morning to bring them to school if I have them that weekend. If not, it's Thursday and Friday mornings. And then the rest of the week, I'm usually waking up around 7 to 8 o'clock, which is a bit of a gap, right? And that's because I'm really grateful, Carrie. And this is an opportunity. I'll be honest, the reason I do that is I will change my windows because when I don't have the kids, I stay up a little bit later. I get a little bit more productivity done. I push like right now, if I had the kids, I wouldn't be doing this live stream. I even have a coaching call after this. I wouldn't be doing these things. The point of saying this is I do even have a rhythm. I have similar sleep and wake times depending on what stage of the week it's at. Now, it's not going to be every single day, but it's a weekly routine that looks consistent. And maybe it's a monthly routine that looks consistent. It's going to vary. Maybe it's a seasonal routine that looks consistent for you, but it's finding consistency in that. The next piece is being able to have protein at breakfast. For me, I drink coffee first thing in the morning. I have a little coffee station right over here over my shoulder. I have my protein shakes pre-made, or we'll have powders. Shout out to PES Science. That's not even a sponsored plug. They did sponsor our retreat. I'm just giving them some love for taking care of us, but I'm fortunate. I have a bunch of companies that'll send me out protein. PES is one of them that has in the past. And whether I'll pay for my protein shakes, like Pure Protein's one I literally pay for right now, the pre-made shakes. PES actually sent us some. We drank them all on the retreat, so I'm gonna have to get some more from them. The point is, I will have protein with my coffee. That's how I get my protein in the morning. And then I break my fast after my workout, usually around 12 to 2 o'clock, depending on how the day is going and what's going on from there. So for you, if you don't want to do intermittent fasting, get protein in the morning. 30 to 40 grams of protein can be nice food, anywhere from 20 to 40 grams. Again, if you're not sure how much to eat, talk to me, someone on our team, reach out to LOF. You can get on a free call. You can go to our website. We'll take care of you. And now more than ever, you're even able to leverage insurance where it may not even cost you anything. You can leverage your insurance, your HSA, your FSA. We have a variety of really cool options. Point is, get your protein in. If you're not certain, talk to someone. If you are not doing breakfast, make up for that protein throughout your day. Whenever you break your fast, if you're not going to do a protein shake with your coffee or something like that, make up for the protein you're not getting in that meal if you're skipping it. It's going to help stabilize your blood sugar. It's going to help repair and continuously grow the muscle that you want, the lean body mass. It's going to help with a variety of things. Number 3, within the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking up, have 10 minutes of sunlight and movement. If it's dead winter and you don't have access to outdoor sunlight, use windows like what I have behind me. Get out in front of that sun. If, let's say, you live in Alaska or somewhere where you're like, you know what, I've got like 4 hours of sunlight throughout the day, you can get artificial light. It's not the best thing. There's things even on Amazon. I realize now in hindsight, I should have probably added that to my carousel because I actually have some light therapy, some things like SAD, seasonal affective depression disorder lights, and things you can get like circadian rhythm lights you can get as well. I'll have to add that when we do the blog post. If you're listening to the podcast, you're listening to this like repurposed, not live, I'll add that into the mix. But you can even, again, go on Amazon if you guys are watching this live on Amazon. I don't have that, but you can even go to like some of our supplements, like vitamin D is a great one, magnesium. They'll help with those components, but you can get like, again, a light therapy oriented thing. And lastly, breath work. Ideally 5 minutes before reacting. I have this again, access point. I say at least start with 30 seconds. 30 seconds, breathe. It's the pause, breathe, and then reassess technique. And it's something I invite for all my ADHD clients, but also for all the clients my team and I work with as well. We leverage this approach, whether you have ADHD or not, to pause before you emotionally respond, take a breath or multiple. And a pro tip I will just tell you, because ironically, I'm seeing Carrie walk out of the bedroom, and Carrie will tell me when I'm emotionally dysregulated, I need you to breathe right now. Here's a pro tip. Don't tell someone to breathe. You as the individual need to like get that for yourself. Otherwise, it's not going to necessarily work. It's going to be more emotionally triggering from my experience. So have visual cues to breathe. Be able to have a system, or what I've worked with people, I have my watch. My watch is actually a helpful prompt to get steps in, to also breathe. But make sure you're breathing, even if it's for 30 seconds, ideally 5 minutes, to regulate from a fight or flight state to a rest and digest state. It'll help regulate your nervous system so you're not as emotionally worked up, not as impulsive to make irrational decisions, like eating an entire bag of Reese's or eating whatever, or not going to the gym, or saying something unkind to someone you're going to regret later. These are the things that showcase in a dysregulated system that ultimately impact why, when we ask the question, why do I know what to do? I just ultimately don't. Your emotionally dysregulated system and you're overly stressed. So this is another actionable. So to recap all four of those things, first, protect your sleep like it's your job. Like you are getting paid $1 million a year to sleep 7 to 9 hours a night. So that means, again, you don't have control of how many hours you sleep, but protect, hey, what is my intake of whether it's social media? Like I personally don't bring my phone into the bedroom. I just don't let my phone in my bedroom. I'll still watch TV. I'll still read. I'll do certain things. But if I have a hard time sleeping, I'll find journaling, reading becomes helpful. Not using the TV. Maybe using the foot massager that I can hear that Carrie's putting on right now from Montrax. They're actually a great brand. We really enjoy them. Carrie's probably going to put out some videos on them because it's literally, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Carrie, but you're saying it's literally been like a massively impactful thing for you, right? So it's changed her life. So being able to, that's how I know I got a good Christmas gift, was shout out to me. The point is having these checkpoints to protect. So protect sleep like it's your job. You're getting paid $1 million an hour to sleep 7 to 9 hours per night. You would figure it out. I believe in you. So treat yourself to that and you'll have an impact on your nervous system. Number 2, protein at breakfast, 30 to 40 grams of protein at breakfast, maybe more, maybe less, depending on how big or small you are. If you don't eat breakfast, you can go with a protein shake with your coffee like I do. You can skip breakfast altogether, but make up for the protein throughout your day. It'll help in a variety of ways. Number 3, get sunlight and movement for at least 10 minutes within the first 30 to 60 minutes of being awake, whether it's outside, whether it's in front of the windows, whether it's doing yoga, walking, holding your baby, playing, dance party, whatever, but get some sunlight, ideally real sunlight. If not, do artificial with like a light, a lamp, something like that, circadian rhythm oriented light. And then lastly, focus on your breath. When you're emotionally dysregulated, breathe. I find it helpful to like close my eyes. I look up, I put my tongue also on the base of my mouth. That helps stimulate the vagus nerve and the vagal nervous system, or the vagus nerve pathway, to help get into parasympathetic state and to calm our system down and help with breathing. So that's the actionable pieces that you can take away from this. If you could take one thing away, the one thing I want to offer you guys, this is the last like action piece, is pick one of these things. Pick one of those 4 to take action on today. Whenever you're watching this, do it right now and implement it. Implement it until it feels hardwired, until you couldn't not do it. If you tried, you had to intentionally not try and do it. That's the one thing. Because think about it, people want to do like, oh, I'm going to do all these things all at once. I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to eat less sugar. I'm going to get more sleep. I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to stretch more. I'm also going to journal. I'm going to read. That's like a million things to do. You're going to fail at all of them. Statistically, you're going to fail. If you pick one thing and you execute it for the next month, the next 2 months, and you did that again for the entire year, you would be way more successful. And you probably have 3 to 5 really dialed in strong habits at the end of the year that you could have the rest of your potentially life that will set you up for success. So instead of trying to do all of these over the next 100 days, do one of these over the next 30, 60, 100 days, and then do that again until you get all of them dialed in, until you get all 4 of these dialed in. And then it'll have a chain reaction from there. So this is where I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to check the questions. I'm also going to drop a couple of fun facts in here that I think are just interesting that we'll recap. And then I'll talk about some of the products that I think could be related to this. And then if there's any questions, we'll get into it. And if not, actually might take a couple of extra minutes here, wrap this up early and get prepared for my last coaching call of the evening, and maybe even do a little foot massage with Carrie over there. That could be a fun little, I'm thinking about when we have a shed being delivered on Friday, which you guys are going to see a new background. The reason I bring this up is you're going to see a change in content scenery. We're going to bring the coach's corner hopefully back. We'll have a dedicated space where I'll always be creating my content, so you guys can see that kind of like scenery again and be able to have a little like recovery station in there. Maybe we'll have a foot massage out there, some other things as well. But let's drop some fun facts here for a hot second. Number 1, emotional reactivity can increase up to 60% after poor sleep. Let me reword that. Your likelihood of being emotional, most likely being negatively emotional. For example, I'll use myself in this situation. I'll use real-time examples. The likelihood of me being more unkind and either raising my voice or saying something unkind to someone I care about is increased by 60% if I'm getting less than 7 hours of sleep per night on average. So again, if you're getting less than just one poor night of sleep, less than 7 hours, you're 60% more than likely going to be more emotionally reactive and unkind or being impulsive. Number two, the prefrontal cortex. I was talking about this before. This is the logical part of our brain. This is the rational, executive function oriented, analytical part of our brain. Uses more glucose, i.e. sugar, than almost any other brain region. So this is what I think is kind of hilarious when we were watching. What's that anime that we were watching, Carrie, where that like the detectives, it was like L or something. He's like constantly eating sugar.
Oh, the Devil's Note. Wait.
Death Note. So Death Note's a great anime. I highly recommend you guys check it out. But it's actually great. It makes me think of this. In general, also, if you think of like chess is a great example. Jiu-jitsu, martial arts in general, you don't think of that as like a cognitive game, but it's actually very much a cognitive game. Jiu-jitsu especially is considered human chess, but I would argue any martial art is like human chess. And chess in general is obviously the baseline of it. You have to use your prefrontal cortex for that activity, which is a logical, analytical, rational part of your brain. 60% of the calories it needs it's not really 60. I was kind of mixing that up from the 60% more reactivity with sleep, but more of the body's energetic demand is going to come from sugar for that part of the brain than any other brain region, which most of our brain's going to operate on sugar anyway, but there is some fat it's going to use. There's some other components to it. It needs to be hydrated. There's some fuel components, but that rational part of our brain is the most sugar oriented, glucose oriented. Now, if you're asking me, well, Mike, what about those that are ketosis based or doing different things where they're not having a lot of sugar? You can leverage it. You can reorient your brain chemistry, but it's not optimal. From my understanding of it, again, I'm not a neuroscientist, but when I gather about brain chemistry and the science behind it, you'll be adaptations, but it's not the most efficient. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but it's going to require some sugar. But the point of that doesn't mean you should just be hammering. You don't actually need to take in sugar. Your body will convert things into glucose. You can have your regular, normal nutrition from carbohydrates. It will convert it into glucose. Let your body take care of it. Don't go out like, Mike told me to eat M&Ms because I'm playing chess and I need a lot of prefrontal cortex fuel. That's not necessarily the case. But this is a cool fun fact. That rational part of your brain requires a lot of glucose. So you're going to need more carbohydrates. Under stress, your brain conserves energy by defaulting to habits. So for example, when you're highly stressed out, you're not going to be as logical. Your brain's going to almost reduce activity and just think, all right, cool. What have we already laid the foundation for? I'll try and give an analogy. If let's say you were a city and you were building a new road, but all of a sudden the economy tanks. You're going to stop building that new road and you're going to use the roads you've already built, i.e. your habits. These are roads we've already built, pathways we've already built. You're going to shut down any new projects, any new things you're working on, especially under stress, and you're going to go to the tried and true tested pathways you've developed, which is why it's important to think about when we're creating a resolution or oriented a goal. We want to make it habit oriented and not try and do a million things all at once. For example, if we want to make a habit out of going to sleep at a certain time or not watching our TV or going on social media before bed, focus on purely that for a long period of time to make it a strong habit. Next, 20 minutes of moderate aerobic exercise improves cognitive function, improves hippocampal volume and activity, as well as improves prefrontal cortex activity. 20 minutes. What does moderate exercise or moderate aerobic exercise mean? So if we were to use a zone training, you would be in zone 3 or above. So that could be, again, roughly 65% to 70% of your max heart rate for 20 minutes. You can even start with 3 to 5. You can even start with less than that, but 20 minutes of moderate aerobic exercise, dance, like shadow boxing, walking, hiking, running, biking, you name it, jumping rope, as long as it's staying in like zone 3 or more, then you are going to get a benefit for your prefrontal cortex and overall cognitive control, basically impulse control. You're going to be less impulsive if you're doing cardio, is the simple way to put it. But it's having a certain level of intensity of cardio for at least 20 minutes at a time. And lastly, morning light exposure improves circadian rhythm alignment. It's a fancy way of saying you get exposed to light early in the morning, you're going to stay on a consistent sleep routine and your body's going to stay in a particular rhythm. That's why we stress that, and why in general people talk about circadian rhythm. You're like, why is circadian rhythm even important? It helps keep us in a predictable pattern, not only for sleep, but for as our body produces other hormones, as it produces different types of habits, rhythms, neurotransmitters, signaling. All of these things are related to our circadian rhythm. And that's pretty much it, y'all. So to, again, recap all of this, to go from the science all the way down to the insight, to the actionables. For the science, number one, stress impairs executive function. Acute stress suppresses prefrontal cortex function and executive function. Number two, sleep loss reduces impulse control. Even one poor night of sleep, less than 7 hours, is going to reduce our impulse control and overall cognitive control. Number three, stress pushes you towards habit loops. When you're stressed out, your body's trying to conserve and your brain's trying to conserve energy, so it's going to default to habits you've already created. So you want to make sure that you're creating strong habits for yourself. Don't be surprised that you try to create a new habit, you have a crazy stressful event. Like, let's say you're moving, and then all of a sudden you're like, why am I eating pizza and going to fast food and things like that? It's like, because you're stressed out and your body's going to its default habit. If that's been a habit you've created, don't necessarily judge yourself for it. Yes, you can use some discipline, but also be mindful of like, all right, how can I try and create a habit ahead of time? If you know you have to move, really be intentional about creating a new habit. If you've already had to deal with this stress, yes, that's where using acute willpower. We could talk about that in next week's potential episode. Okay, great. I have all this insight, but I need some acute discipline and I need some acute willpower. What can I do with that? There's strategies we can get into. If you guys are interested in that, let me know. We'll totally dive into that. Then number four, environment drives behavior. So 40 to 45% of daily behaviors are automatic habits and are related to our environment. For example, I have a high five on the mirror in the bathroom. I give myself a high five every morning. I say, I am devoted. That is an environmental habit. I don't know if you noticed this, Carrie. I didn't do that when we were in Joshua Tree. I didn't high five myself in the morning because I didn't have my little high five signal. And I even told myself I was going to pack it, but I just didn't, because stress, all these things we literally just talked about, and also Carrie didn't meditate because we're in a new environment and we're out of our routine. We don't have those cues. The point is, it doesn't mean you can't work around that. What I ended up doing is, once I got back home, I immediately got back into the routine. I was very intentional with that, but I also still kept journaling and planning, and I still did my prayer, and I did some baseline things that are built around my morning routine. But environment is a huge cue, so leverage it where you can, and also give yourself some grace when the environment changes, and try and set yourself up for success by adjusting the environment you're going into. And then number five, lastly, from the science side of it, exercise improves executive function, especially aerobic exercise. 20 minutes of moderate aerobic exercise or more will increase hippocampal volume, activity, prefrontal cortex activity, and improves overall cognition, as well as just any type of exercise, resistance training, martial arts training, aerobic training. Anything you do exercise oriented will have an impact on your prefrontal cortex, on your just brain function in general. Now, the questions we ask ourselves, like, how do I know this is me? You scroll instead of sleep. You snack instead of training. You react emotionally more than you would like. You delay workouts. You say, I'll start Monday. Again, this is not laziness by itself inherently. This is a nervous system overloaded or dysregulated. That's how I knew, like last week, I was very intentional when I got back to like decompress for a week, because I was feeling myself being more emotionally like dysregulated. And I was like, I can feel the stress and I can feel all these things. Even though I was working out, I wasn't necessarily snacking instead of training. I could just feel the emotionality through it all. And feeling like, oh, you know what? I'm going to, like, instead of doing these tasks, I'm going to do it Monday when I'm like, yeah, this is a good example of like my system's overloaded. I need to regulate my nervous system before I can get anything. And now today, like, I've been super productive. Even yesterday, super productive. So I can see from regulating my nervous system, I've been able to get back into that groove. And it's important to notice that. So again, the actionables, number one, protect sleep, protect 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Like it's your job, like you're being paid millions of dollars a year to be able to do that. And again, you can't control your sleep, but you can control the routines around your sleep and wake times. Focus on the 3 to 1 hours before bed and the 1 hour after you wake up. Like you're getting paid millions of dollars. Number two, have protein at breakfast. 30 to 40 grams is ideal. You can always adjust it more or less if you're not clear. Again, talk to someone here on the team. You can schedule a free call with us. We'll take care of you and give you some insight. We can even get coaching if you need that. You could just look it up. There's so many formulas. Even on our app, we have a free formula we share with you, how you know what protein to take in. And number 3, getting sunlight and movement. We're talking about the first hour of waking up as part of your routine. Getting 10 minutes of sunlight and movement within the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking up. It's going to improve your dopamine, your serotonin, all that good stuff. Yeah, Nina, what's up? Nina says, hey, by the way. Yeah, it was a great time in Joshua Tree. And then from a breath work perspective, number 4, focus on your breath. 30 seconds as a baseline, 5 minutes if you have the bandwidth and the capability to do it. It's going to help regulate your nervous system. The technique I will echo here is, again, pause, breathe, assess. Hope is not using that. She's freaking out. I Hope literally just heard me talking to that, I'm guessing. But again, pause, breathe, and then assess what you want to do. When you breathe first, you regulate your nervous system. You're more likely to make a less than impulse-oriented decision. You're going to be more rational, logical. And then again, lastly, for this, just pick one of these things. Pick one of these things to focus on right now, whether it's your sleep, whether it's your protein, whether it's your breath, and just pick one of these things and be able to build a system and a habit around it. That small adjustment will compound over time for a massive transformation. That's pretty much it, y'all. Again, if you want to see the citations for this, where I'm getting the data from, if you want to see more about the products and you're catching the replay, you can not only go onto our blog, we'll have it cited on the Amazon side. I didn't have the circadian rhythm light, so I'll actually add that to it in our blog. You can, again, just go on and search it. On TikTok as well, I'll kind of add it into our shop and our storefront, but I will add that in. I do have some recommendations on my ideas list. If you just go to my storefront homepage, you can just look up light or circadian rhythm or circadian light or anything like that, and it'll have a couple of the products I've used in the past that I do like here. And again, feel free to just ask questions. We're finishing up the live, but if you go on the replay, wherever you're watching this, drop questions. I always love hearing from you guys. Also, thank you to Nina for dropping by, saying hey, for Kraken, for Romeo, bruh, and Peter. Regardless, whatever you guys are asking or just saying hey, I appreciate it. If you're not already, please follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. But I'm going to go charge my laptop, get ready for my last call for the evening, and then actually implement some of these things. This is literally like the next hour is going to be my last hour of work stuff before I start to transition. And then I'm going to have my last meal for the evening, and then we'll start to wind things down. So I'm literally going to implement the sleep thing is the biggest thing I focus on. I know when my sleep's dialed in, the rest of my life tends to be really, really aligned and smooth. It's not always perfect, but that's where it's at. So thank you, everybody. Hopefully this is valuable for you. And again, if you even have requests on topics, you can go to our website and you can go to lifestyleoffitness.com. We even have an area you can vote on topics. We were giving away a $50 gift card. I think I'm going to bring that back. Shout out to our winners. We had some winners for the $50 gift card. We even had a $70 gift card we gave away when we had 700 subscribers on YouTube. I'll have to do a $100 gift card when we had 1,000 subscribers. So if you want to help get us there, follow us on YouTube. Also, lastly, really quick, we just launched our new Instagram account, The Lifestyle Experience on Instagram. If you guys want to give that a follow, I'd really appreciate it. It's basically going to be all of our retreats, all of our pop-up events for the Lifestyle Experience. It's bringing our coaching and everything together and all our collaborations. It's really exciting what we're working on with that. That is pretty much it, y'all. I will see y'all in the next one. And also just a quick shout out to Funky Junk for hooking me up with this girl's dad hat. I kept it backwards the whole time because the lighting, I think it would be a little bit better, but I don't know. I like the vibes. I like the look, but later, everybody. See y'all in the next one.